Hi everyone. So just making this video to again try and clarify my thoughts because sometimes I do have something here that I want to just share and it's not necessarily anything super profound, but I can find it difficult to put the words around it, and I notice my mind is, gets very tense trying to put words around something, and it can be easier to just try and express and without any pressure. So yeah, something that really moved me at the weekend, which is what I did want to share, was seeing the Sinead O'Connor documentary. So I went to see it with my sister on Saturday night, and it was really brilliant. I think the whole audience was very moved by it, and there was a round of applause at the end, and you kind of had this sense almost. I could almost even feel tears, like a vindication of Sinead O'Connor, because I think everyone's aware that she has had a difficult life, and even in the just even in the past year, I think had tragic news that her son had committed suicide. So she has this kind of background story that I think people are familiar with. That is, a difficult life, and yet, she is and was such an important figure for women. And I think it's something I realize now. I wasn't. I mean, I think I knew that to a certain extent, but not fully. And I found it, yeah, really interesting to look at the footage and the story of her, kind of rise to fame, and hear some of the stories about her own childhood and background, because I wouldn't really have been familiar with those. And I would have been a child in the 80s, and kind of, moving into teenage years in the 90s. And I do remember seeing her on the Late Late Show, um, and that part was interesting because they showed some clips from the Late Late Show from back then, and I'm sure I would have watched those at the time. And yeah, that was one thing that really stood out to me, that Sinead was, you could see looking back at the early footage, that she was this person, young woman, who was just so firm in what she stood for, so firm in her truth, of what she believed in, what she felt, speaking the truth about her past. And um, you could see how that was received in the society that we were living in at the time, how there wasn't really an embrace of that necessarily. So at best, she kind of seemed to get a condescending, patronising type of reaction. So, from Gay Byrne and that kind of thing, which I definitely wouldn't have noticed back then. Gay Byrne was could do no wrong kind of thing. And it was just the way he was. But when you watch now, you really see how the comments and the attitude towards her was not taking her seriously. Um, it um, wasn't very supportive. I mean, you could say there was probably a sense at the time that she was being supported. I mean, I spoke to my mum the other day, and she even said to me, "Oh yeah, Gay loved Sinead O'Connor." But my just looking at the little clips, the way he spoke to her was just so condescending and patronising. Um, yeah, but maybe that's saying something. Yeah. Um, what else? I think it's just seeing that footage with the fresh eyes of now, and seeing what an important um, person she was, just even in terms of her energy stamp on the world, and the ripples that she would have caused. And she did say something like, "They tried to bury me, but they didn't realize I was a seed." And um, yeah, unfortunately, she had to take that role. and she was one of the early people in that kind of breaking through maybe old institutions and patriarchy and that kind of thing. That's still happening now, but it was far, far, far more difficult for her. She would have been received so much differently today. Um, yeah, so I mean, I suppose the simple thread is um, just in simple terms of someone's energy or being, she was just really there and she knew what she stood for and she shouted and she expressed and she sang. She wore her clothes, she was unique. And in contrast, she came into a society and culture that was predominantly uniform, follow the rules, do what you're told, uh, you know, excessively religious, and yeah, out of touch with body, sexuality, um, our personal unique thoughts dissociated, and for me, I suppose I'm always trying to connect these things with the field of law and bringing change there. And so, yeah, of course, it's connected. I think bringing change into the legal system, it's a similar type of situation where, yeah, typically it is a field of follow the rules, follow the norms, etc., etc. I'm kind of got brain fog, and I don't know if I'm making sense about this. Let me see how much time is left. 7:47. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there for now. I just wanted to talk about the Sinead O'Connor documentary. So thank you for listening.